All right, 8:45 here on the program. What a show we're having today. So here is a continuation almost of the interview that we just had with John Hedwood. This is now The Energy Code. It's a book by medical practitioner Dr. Ela Manga, shines a light on the basic laws of energy by weaving together neuroscience and Eastern philosophy to help us cope with the distractions and demands of our digitalised and incredibly busy lives. Dr. Manga says a few years into her career as a medical doctor, she started to notice an alarming trend of passionate people burning out and then losing their fire. She's here with us in studio. So good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you, Lillian.
Did you meet John Hedwood as you left?
Very briefly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he talks about energy.
Yeah.
That was what he was really, sort of the message he was getting, is that he gets energy from people. He gets energy from people passed on. And it is, you can pick it up from people, you know, if they're burning out, if they, how do you read energy?
Absolutely. You know, for me, as much as I understand energy from that perspective, I wanted to find a way to translate that in a way that is simple and relevant for our modern lives. And so I'm speaking about energy in terms of capacity, the energy that really fuels us to do what we need to do in this world.
Yeah.
And of course it is tapped into that source of energy that's within us. And it's about how do we support our bodies, our minds, to channel that energy so that we're able to do what we're meant to do in this world.
Yeah. So let's, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit more about your background. I mean, you are a doctor. Mm-hmm. So talk to us how you got into all of this.
Yeah. Well, I think about 5 years into my general practice, I started to see that I wasn't quite equipped to deal with the whole person. And at the same time, I was seeing a very real connection between what people were experiencing on a physical level and what they were experiencing emotionally and in their lifestyles and their stresses. And I felt compelled to kind of support well-being in a more holistic way. And I felt ill-equipped at that time. So I searched for ways to incorporate tools into my practice that supported better nutrition, that supported mindfulness, that supported conscious living. So people could feel more empowered to support their health in a more sustainable way rather than just treating the symptoms, which I believe are just the tip of the iceberg of the whole story of who we are.
Amazing. So you talk about the Energy Code. What is that? I mean, if you have to give a description to it.
The Energy Code is basically a book that supports us with simple everyday tools to access what we already know.
Yeah. It is quite incredible. We all know what is right and what is wrong, but sometimes it takes either an external person or a book to just point out what you're doing wrong in your life.
Or crisis.
Yeah? Talk to me more about that.
Yeah. You know, I think we are habitual creatures by nature. And we so often get stuck into habits and patterns and a lifestyle that doesn't really support who we really are. And in the process, we just get more and more disconnected from our innate wisdom, from our intuition, from what we know to be true. It's very easy to get stuck into unconscious behavior patterns. And, you know, that digital device that we are also addicted to.
Yeah, and stuck to.
Yeah,
I mean, look at me. I'm sitting with it right here next to me, and it's always with me.
It's a constant distraction.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, in that way, it kind of fuels this adrenalized energy that we are, we're addicted to it. We're addicted to this distraction. We're addicted to this adrenalized energy that this device kind of activates. And so we really have to find ways to become more conscious and aware and step away from that.
Yeah.
And to create a new habit of awareness, you know. And I think it's only through that can we start to shift, almost like, I call it upgrading the software of our subconscious mind, so that we retain a certain level of awareness constantly so that we are able to make better choices.
You talk about burnout and how it affects people. I suppose before we talk a little about burnout, let's just have a look at through the generations. And are you finding that more and more people are suffering from burnout because the pressures of life are just getting more and more intense as the years go by?
Absolutely. And this is, you know, why I wrote the book, because I was really concerned I was concerned about the amount of burnout I was seeing in my practice.
Yeah.
And so we often see burnout as the crisis, as the end stage of, just crashing. But I think that all of us in some way are experiencing symptoms that are on the road to burnout. And there are little warning signals.
Talk to me about them. What are they? I mean, what do we look out for?
So symptoms of adrenalized energy or stuck adrenalized energy. Typical symptoms: muscle tension, headaches, insomnia, digestive symptoms, heartburn, constipation, bloating. Irritable bowel syndrome is a big symptom that we see, And we often, because of our busy lives, just want to suppress the symptoms, take an anti-inflammatory, take an antispasmodic to get on with the day. And in the meantime, we don't realize this is the body trying to communicate to us. This is the body saying, just hang on. Just you need time to break that cycle and recover and tap into your source of energy within and just create a new habit, a new pattern that is relevant for modern times, So this is what the book is about. How can we find ways to activate this recovery response, or what I call recovery loops, within our day?
Yeah.
We don't have to wait for the weekend or the next December holiday.
And that was what I was going to say to you. It's that it's amazing how we push our body for an entire year, and then suddenly you sort of expect it to recoup in 1 week.
Yeah.
Just 1 week you give it at the end of the year to just sort of like say, okay, well, here's your recharge, and then back to January, and it's back to the grindstone.
Exactly.
I mean, it's physically impossible to continue that way, but we do it to ourselves. That's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are you recommending? I mean, in order to sort of not burn ourselves out, what are the tips that we should always keep?
I think it's finding some way to tap in and tune in to the physical body and what the body's communicating to us on an everyday basis, and to find simple tools to activate this recovery loop. So, for example, a deep breath.
Yeah.
Just a simple deep breath will activate that recovery response within your busy day, between tasks, at a red traffic light, for example. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It's just making the time and really honoring this time to rest and recover and recuperate and regenerate.
Yeah.
So,
and it's also giving yourself a break. I mean, I have seen more and more people around me suffering from burnout, and then suddenly making dramatic changes in their lives, things that they would never have even dreamt of. I mean, to resigning from their jobs, suddenly taking their health very importantly, eating well, exercising well. But it took them to the point of breaking down to then suddenly decide they're going to build themselves up. So I suppose what you're saying is that we need to recognize the signs before it's too late.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Give us some advice. I mean, if you have to sort of, if you have to tell your patients things to avoid. Yes, a deep breath, but I mean, what else should we do? Diet, exercise.
Yeah, so really in the book I look at 3 pillars of well-being, or 3 sources of energy. And the first is body's intelligence. So how do we support the physical body to really get us through the day? So what is the way that we need to be eating? How do we exercise that doesn't fuel the adrenalized response? What does relaxation really feel like? How can we bring relaxation more into our lives? A simple mindfulness practice. Breath awareness for 5 minutes before you start your day. I speak about these bookends. How do we begin our day mindfully? How do we wind down before we go to sleep so that our sleep is more restorative? And most of us kind of are looking at taking aids, the extra glass of wine or a sleeping pill, because we're so exhausted and so wired at the same time that we don't know how to shut off and relax. So it's about retraining relaxation into our everyday life. So it's a daily practice.
Amazing. Yeah, it's stuff we know. It's just stuff we need to be told again to do. Your book, is it available at all bookstores and around the country?
And online on Amazon.
Excellent. So it's called The Energy Code. It's Dr. Ela Manga. Dr. Manga, what do you practice? I mean, when you say you're a medical practitioner.
So I practice as an integrative medical practitioner, which means that I support the whole person.
Excellent.
And I use natural methods as much as possible.
Fantastic. So sometimes much better than the actual chemical that perhaps is worsening the situation as opposed to making it better.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much for talking to us. So it's a book out. It's called The Energy Code. And really, it's just giving us, I think, the information that we already know so well, but we need to read to just reprogram our lives and ensure that we don't burn out. Because I don't know about you, but I have noticed so many people around me, and they're getting younger and younger because of the pressures that are coming on them. So very good information and advice from Dr. Ela Manga. All right, well, I think are we taking a break, or we just almost, well, basically, we're going to end off the show.